Part 1A: History that never happened. Historians often employ counterfactual scenarios to highlight the significance of real historical developments. Among the most striking is the hypothesis of a Nazi victory in World War II. In this alternative trajectory, there was no D-Day, no liberation of Paris, and no fall of Berlin. Instead, in 1945, Nazi Germany declared a comprehensive victory in Europe. London had fallen, Moscow was under occupation, and the swastika was raised above the Kremlin. In this imagined world, Big Ben tolled under totalitarian shadows, and a new empire emerged, the Third World Empire, Dritte Weltreich. This raises a crucial question: had Hitler triumphed, how would global history have unfolded? Part 2: Global Geopolitics under Totalitarian Rule. Nazi victory would have created a world order based on violence, racial hierarchy, and coercion. In such a scenario, the United Nations would never have been founded, NATO would not exist, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights would not have been written. Instead, the Nazis envisioned a new world order, Ordnung der Welt, in which every individual was classified, every nation subordinated, and every culture suppressed. The United States, after defeats in Europe, would have been forced to sign armistice agreements with Germany and Japan. The resulting world would have resembled a reverse Cold War, but this time dominated by the fascist powers. Nazi Germany would have controlled Europe, from France to Poland, from Sweden to Greece, while Imperial Japan would have dominated Asia, including China, Korea, Indochina, and Southeast Asia. Part 3: The Erasure of Culture and Human Identity. The cultural consequences of such a victory would have been devastating. Non-Aryan cultures, such as Slavic, Jewish, and Romani, would have been systematically eradicated. Local languages would have been banned in education, while classical music, free literature, and Enlightenment philosophy would have been subject to censorship. The works of Shakespeare, Chopin, and Kafka might have disappeared from human memory. Education would have been reduced to a single narrative: the history of the Reich. This totalitarian regime would have eliminated critical thought. Philosophy, independent journalism, and oppositional art would have been extinguished, leaving only propaganda, obedience, and the cult of the Führer. Part 4: Technology in the Service of the Reich. Technological development under Nazi hegemony would also have taken a different course. The space race would never have occurred: no NASA, no Sputnik, and no Apollo 11 mission. Similarly, the modern internet as we know it, Google, Wikipedia, YouTube, Facebook, would not exist. In its place, the Nazis might have established a centrally controlled information system, Netzordnung, under the authority of a global ministry of propaganda. Artificial intelligence, had it been developed, would likely have served surveillance and censorship rather than human advancement. Every action, every word typed, would have been monitored to maintain social control. Part 5: The Fate of Colonized and Peripheral Nations. Nations in Asia. Vietnam would never have gained independence. Japanese rule over Indochina would have persisted, with no anti-colonial resistance, no Ho Chi Minh, and no declaration of independence in 1945. India, likewise, would have remained under colonial domination, with no Gandhi, no nonviolent movement, and no emergence as the world's largest democracy. Peripheral regions would have been exploited to their limits. Resources would have flowed toward fascist metropoles, while indigenous populations faced assimilation or extermination. Part 6: A World Without Freedom. Freedom in this projected reality. Identity would be biologically determined from birth. Genetic analysis, skin color, and ancestry would dictate access to education, employment, and residence. Personal aspirations would be irrelevant. Careers and destinies would be assigned by the state. Freedom of speech would be entirely absent. Investigative journalism, dissident literature, and student protests would be inconceivable. Public life would consist solely of military parades, state reports, and pervasive fear. Part 7: Long-term consequences. The loss of human hope. Nazi victory would have halted much of humanity's moral progress. Human rights, women's rights, and anti-colonial liberation movements would have been suppressed. Figures such as Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., and Malala Yousafzai might never have emerged. Science would have advanced, but primarily in the service of destruction. Humanity might even have reached Mars, but only as an extension of conquest and genocide. Part 8: The value of actual history. The Allied victory in 1945 was not merely a military triumph, but also a reaffirmation of human dignity. Freedom, equality, and human rights were not inevitable. They were secured through immense struggle. Every vote cast, every article published, and every act of resistance represented a small victory against totalitarian darkness. Counterfactual history illustrates the fragility of freedom. Had Hitler prevailed, much of the world we know today, its democratic institutions, cultural diversity, and human rights, would not exist. History, therefore, is not only a subject to be studied but also a legacy to be preserved. As this analysis suggests, the outcome of World War II shaped the very possibility of human progress. Remembering this past is essential, for the alternative would have been a world devoid of liberty, justice, and hope.